Hi guys, Chris of the Polish Geek, and welcome to another video game review of Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And I have to say, the game was awesome. Like, I'm not surprised. You can't really go bad with Zelda unless you mean Wand of Gamelon or Link the Faces of Evil, but who gives a shit about those? I keep hearing from people a lot how gaming is dead, and I do agree that old games certainly generally are much better than the newer games, and also gaming certainly is not what it used to be in the past. But I wouldn't go as far as to say gaming is completely dead, and Nintendo is a perfect example of a company that still very much cares about making quality games. Say what you want about their business practices, but there is no doubt to the fact that at least when it comes to trying to make quality games, Nintendo still very much exceeds in that. And as I just said, they still very much care about making good quality video games. And Legend of Zelda is one of their signature franchises. Like, my favorite is probably Ocarina of Time. I know, cliche choice, but come on, that's the classic. But I also very much love Skyward Sword, and I love Tears of the Kingdom from last year. Maybe I did a little bit overpraise it, but doesn't change the fact that I still think it's a fantastic game. Link Between Worlds, Link to the Past. I mean, yeah, as I just said, you can't really go wrong with Zelda, and Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is really, really unique and so innovative, and I loved it so much. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is unique in that this is the very first Zelda game where you actually play as Zelda herself, because generally Zelda is a princess and Link is the hero whom you play as, but Zelda never actually felt like a damsel in distress. I mean, she always very much felt like a badass princess, and it was actually pretty interesting that she's never been a playable character before, even if you never really gave it much thought. Outside of Wand of Gamelon, but nobody talks of that. Especially that Zelda is a title character, and apparently I heard that some people who've never played any of the Zelda games before, apparently they believe Link is Zelda. I mean, still, this is the first game where Zelda takes a center stage as a player character, and I also think this game does it so amazingly well. Guess you can say this is the first true Legend of Zelda game with, as I said, playing as Zelda, or some would maybe call it Legend of Link. And the game is so full of references to classic Zelda and full of nostalgia, and also feels all so natural. And I also love how it goes back to classic style of top-down view. The story of the game is pretty good. I mean, Zelda games in general have a great story. Other than the confusing timeline and continuity for a series as a whole, every story is a classic fantasy's hero's journey with Link as the hero, of course. The story of this game decidedly takes place in the main continuity this time with all the previous games before it, because the open world games of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, lots of fans, including me, speculate that they very much take place in their own rebooted continuity. But Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is decidedly part of the main continuity with all the other games. Its placement though isn't exactly clear, but again, as I said, Zelda timeline is confusing. Lots of placements aren't really clear in that case. But for me, it's actually one of the charms of the Zelda games in general. It can be fun to try piece all puzzles of the timeline, but we're going on a tangent. The story of Echoes of Wisdom is slightly different from the previous games. I mean, it's still very much recognizably a Zelda story and Hyrule, but what makes this story unique is that since, as I just said, Zelda takes a center stage and is a playable hero, and the story is that Link visits ancient ruins to save Zelda from Ganon. He is at his most powerful, and it very much resembles something that generally is an ending to a Zelda game, not a beginning. And then Link defeats Ganon only to get sucked into the rift, and Zelda gets saved and returns to her kingdom, only to see her father and plenty of citizens of Hyrule to get sucked into the same rift that Link got sucked in. And now it's up to Zelda to save Link as well as the whole kingdom of Hyrule. Or so it seems at first. In fact, as you get further into the story, I'm going to argue that stakes in any Zelda game have never ever been that high. And the main villain of the game is something out of H.P. Lovecraft. The game seems to take approach of classic Zelda with a top-down view, like Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, and Link's Awakening. That last one is the one this game seems to have most in common with, but I say it's actually a much better game, since not only it's much more innovative, but the story is much better, and as I already said, the stakes are higher than ever. And while the view is mostly top-down, in similar vein to Link's Awakening, as well as one of the very first Zelda games ever made, Adventure of Link, there are side-scrolling sections as well. Overall, the gameplay is pretty similar to the previous Zelda games with the top-down view. And certainly this is very recognizably a Zelda game, but since now she's a playable character, there is lots of innovation, and instead of just swapping characters with same abilities, Zelda is given entirely new mechanics and style, which is exactly how it should be. One of the entirely new mechanics in this game is echoes. Zelda has a wand which she can use at objects or enemies, and then she learns it, and afterwards she can create an echo of it. And echoes can either be used to solve puzzles or for combat purposes, or they can in some ways be also used to heal yourself, like you can create an echo of bed and you can put Zelda lie in it and she recovers her life. It also gets hilarious when you put bed on bed and she just sleeps on the bed on top. And now time to talk a little bit about the combat. Since now you play as Zelda instead of Link, the combat is also very different here than it is in all the other Zelda games, because in every other Zelda game, Link obviously uses a sword and constantly engages in direct combat, which he also very much does in the very beginning of this game when fighting Ganon, and it's pretty fun, though it does admittedly pretty much tease you. Like, once Zelda takes over as a player character, combat becomes much more different, much more complex, and much more unique. At first, it can take quite some time to get used to it, and you do miss Link and his sword sometimes, but as soon as you get a hang of playing as Zelda, it becomes pretty fun and innovative. Generally, as I said, you learn different echoes, and depending on an echo that Zelda learns, you can use that echo to fight enemies. Generally, it often involves creating echoes of other enemies that you already defeated, and they will attack the enemy. Like for example, on this frozen level, I generally used fire, obviously on the snow enemies. And you do also quickly get an ability to turn into Link. It's called a sword fighter mode, and thus you're able to do a classic sword Zelda combat. And it's certainly beneficial to use during the boss battles. That said, there is a limit to it, and it's best to reserve it for the boss battles. Speaking of boss battles, they are really good in regular Zelda fashion. We do get Dark Links, for example, and Dark Link has frequently been a boss in Zelda games, but this game does a unique approach in that each time you defeat a Dark Link, you get a new ability that Link has in all the classic Zelda games. That's actually how you get a sword fighter mode, by defeating the first Dark Link, and as you probably can imagine, there are actually 3 Dark Links overall in this game, but bosses in general are really great in this game, with each having a unique design and slightly different mechanic to defeat them, although generally you do have to turn into a sword fighter mode when you have an opportunity to attack their weak spot. And there is also Dark Zelda as well, and she's actually much more challenging than any of the Dark Links. I mean natural, since she's towards the end of the game. And the final boss is one of the most epic bosses in all the Zelda history. As I said before, it's some sort of Lovecraftian entity, possibly more dangerous than any other Zelda villain, worse than Ganon, and possibly even worse than Demise himself. It gets even more epic that you find Link, and Zelda and Link team up together to defeat him once and for all. The old school dungeons in this game are awesome. They are very much old school Zelda. While I did think that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had some pretty good dungeons with really great layouts and designs, I really love how this game returns to old school dungeons full of puzzles that truly make you think outside the box. Truly, those dungeons very much feel like a classic Legend of Zelda dungeons that throughout your time as you play the Zelda game, you are very much looking forward to just solving another puzzle and waiting in curiosity for what the next dungeon had to offer. And this game very much has that, except that, as I said, when it comes to solving puzzles of the dungeons, you truly have to think outside the box sometimes, and I think you could come up with multiple different solutions to solving a puzzle. And the dungeons in general are simply spectacular, and I don't even have a favorite. I just love how they all each have something new and unique to offer. And like in Link Between Worlds, you don't even have to do them in specific order. Although order clearly is recommended, since in some dungeons it will be much harder to fight enemies if you find them too early, or sometimes you need to learn a specific echo that will make solving some of the puzzles much easier and faster. The game also has some interesting, simple side quests that are pretty fun to solve as you're playing the game. Like, for example, there is a quest where you have to investigate that apparently there is a false soldier among their ranks, or where you have to create random echoes of various monsters to a curious child who's just curious of what they look like. And then there is a quest where you just deliver a grilled fish to a son from the mother. Yup, the side quests in this game are pretty fun. They are very, very simple, yet lots of fun. I also love the overall look of this game. The colors are so bright everywhere and everything looks so detailed. Like, look at the greenery around the nature of Hyrule, or at the Gerudo Desert, as well as how blue waters are detailed. You can literally see through the water below, and this is awesome. I also love swimming in those waters, and every town you visit is just brimming with life. And don't even get me started on an excellent music. Music adds so much more atmosphere to an already great game. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is an excellent entry in the Zelda series, and it is also very unique because it's the first game in the franchise that lets you play as Zelda herself, and it is so excellently executed. I really love the story of this game, and the old school dungeons are awesome, and I think this is a fantastic game in the series that will please both lifelong Zelda fans as well as newcomers to the franchise. Do I prefer this or last year's Tears of the Kingdom? Well, it's hard to say. Tears of the Kingdom certainly has a lot, and I mean a lot more content, but at the same time, because of that, it's a lot more exhausting and overwhelming, while Echoes of Wisdom, I say, is a lot more fun, a lot more accessible, and certainly a lot more replayable because of that. So ultimately I will say which one's better. Really hard to say. It's a perfect example of something that really will depend on my mood, which one is better. But as I said in the beginning, you can't really go wrong with Zelda. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out this video game review. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you soon, bye!